Her shoulder twitched before I even touched her. That was the only warning I got. 1 second I was reaching to hold my wife, and the next, she pulled away like my skin burned. She didn't even flinch dramatically. She just stepped. Casual. Emotionless. Like avoiding me was as natural as breathing. She didn't apologize. She didn't say she was tired. She didn't pretend. She just walked over to the fridge, grabbed a green juice, and started scrolling her phone. That second, right there, before she pulled away, before she acted like I was invisible, I swear I saw it in her eyes. Pity. Not anger, not exhaustion, not confusion. Just quiet, sharp pity. And I think that's what broke me. I stood in the living room like a misplaced object, some old decoration you forget to throw away. The lemon candle burned next to me, flickering like it didn't know if it wanted to die out or keep going. Same here, buddy. Same here. She had her back to me now. Perfect posture. Her workout clothes still had the tag hanging from the bottom hem, brand new. I hadn't seen that tag before. Neither had our credit card statement. And when I asked her the night before about a $46 charge from some place called Aspen Lounge, she said it was probably a gas station receipt that misprinted. That place is a rooftop bar. I Googled it. But tonight, I didn't ask questions. I didn't push. I didn't even blink. I just watched my wife sip green juice and laugh at something on her phone, while my arms were still halfway open in the air. Like I forgot how to finish the motion. Like I forgot how to be wanted. I walked out the front door and sat in the car with the engine off. It was raining, barely. More like the kind of rain that can't decide if it wants to be mist or regret. The windshield fogged up. I didn't wipe it. Instead, I stared into that blurred world and asked myself the most humiliating question of my adult life. What if she's not mine anymore and just hasn't told me? It's strange how clear your mind gets when your heart is splitting apart like cheap wood. I wasn't thinking about saving the marriage. I wasn't thinking about counseling. I wasn't even thinking about confronting her. I was thinking about how to vanish without making a sound. By midnight, I was back inside. She was asleep, or pretending. Her back faced the edge of the bed, arms curled around her phone like it was the only warmth she needed. I stood there watching her breathe. I wanted to hate her. I really did. But all I could think was, how long have you felt this way, Em? And why didn't you tell me I was no longer the person you turned to? That night, I didn't sleep. I made a list instead. Things she stopped doing. Asking how my day was. Wearing her ugly comfy pajamas around me. Letting me rub her back when she had cramps. Calling me weird in that soft voice when I forgot stuff at the store. Looking up from her phone when I walk into the room. The list hit 42 items by 4 a.m. 42 small disappearances. And the next morning, something inside me cracked. Not like a sudden snap, but the kind of break glass makes when it's under slow pressure. She didn't notice. And that's when I knew. I was already gone. But soon, she'd feel it. The next morning, something subtle but brutal happened. She made herself breakfast and didn't make any for me. Not that I expected it. She hadn't in weeks. But this time, there was plenty. She scrambled 6 eggs, toasted 4 slices of sourdough, and made 2 coffees. Both with oat milk. She hates oat milk. I drink it. Or at least, I used to. She poured both mugs, left one on the opposite side of the table, and ate hers in silence. Didn't even glance at the second cup. Just left it there, as if someone else would be showing up to drink it. It didn't make sense at first, until I noticed she was wearing mascara. Not a lot. Just enough to suggest effort. Her hair was curled. No big deal, right? Except Emmy never did her hair like that for work. That style was reserved for dinners, date nights, parties, or other people. She finished her eggs, took a single sip from the second mug, dumped the rest in the sink, and left. No goodbye, no glance back. Just the soft click of the door, like it was trained to shut gently enough not to wake the guilt. That mug sat in the sink all day. I didn't touch it, because I had a plan forming. Not revenge, not anger, just clarity. I took the afternoon off. Told work I had car trouble. Then I waited until she texted me, which she usually did around 12:30, saying she was stuck in meetings. Right on cue, her message came in. Insanely busy today. Don't wait up. Team dinner after work. Only problem? Her company canceled all group dinners this quarter. Budget cuts. I found that out 2 weeks ago when I ran into her coworker Mel at the pharmacy, who vented about how their department had been reduced to instant ramen in the break room. So I decided to follow her. Not with binoculars or spy gear, just with quiet footsteps, half a block behind. Emmy parked 3 streets away from her office and changed into a different pair of shoes in the car. I watched her from my own car, parked across the lot behind a dusty van. Then she pulled out a lipstick I'd never seen before, deep plum, too bold for the woman I used to know, and applied it in the mirror before texting someone. Less than 5 minutes later, a black coupe pulled up. I couldn't see his face, but I saw the way he reached across and opened the door for her from inside. She laughed. That laugh. I hadn't heard it in months. She got in. They drove off. I didn't follow them. I didn't need to. My marriage had already turned the corner without me. Instead, I went home, walked into our bedroom, opened her nightstand drawer. There was a receipt folded like origami and tucked under a paperback novel. I didn't unfold it immediately. I just stared at it, hands shaking like a kid about to read a bad report card. When I opened it, I saw it was for a luxury hotel 3 towns over. Last Friday night. Under her name. Booked for 2 guests. That same night, she had told me she was staying late for branding workshops. The paper didn't just tell me she lied. It showed me she planned it. Packed for it. Drove to it. Smiled at the front desk. Slid her card. I sat on the edge of the bed, holding the receipt like it was something sacred and cursed at the same time. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just whispered to myself, "You let this happen, man. You let it rot this long." That night, when she got home at 11:14 p.m., she walked in humming. Yes, humming. She saw me on the couch and said, "You're still up?" Like I was the one out of place. I asked, "How was the team dinner?" She smiled thinly, dropped her purse, and said, "Fine. You know, corporate nonsense." I nodded. Didn't move. Didn't press. Because I had already made my first move without her. Earlier that evening, I transferred the remaining funds from our joint account into a new personal one under my name. Nothing illegal, just my half, precisely calculated, logged, and noted. I booked a month's stay at a lake cabin I'd inherited years ago and never visited. No cell signal, no shared history, no ghosts in the furniture. And I requested 3 days off work, citing emotional leave. She had no idea, because Emmy was still operating under the illusion that I was harmless. Predictable. Her backup plan. But the truth is, I was already halfway gone. And in less than 48 hours, I'd disappear completely. Only problem? The next morning, she found the hotel receipt I forgot to rehide. And what she did next nearly blew everything apart. I woke up to the sound of a drawer slamming. Not violently, just sharp enough to say, "I'm not in the mood, and you should already know why." At first, I didn't move. I just listened to her footsteps cross the floor like they had somewhere more important to be. Then the rustling. Paper. Silence. The pause. And then her voice. "You went through my things." I sat up slowly, heartbeat crawling into my throat. Emmy stood in the doorway with the hotel receipt in her hand. No mascara today. No curled hair. Just a robe and the look of a woman who wasn't mad you found the evidence. She was mad you dared look for it. I didn't answer her question. Instead, I asked one of my own. "Was it him?" She narrowed her eyes. "Who?" "The guy in the coupe. The one who picked you up outside work." Her silence was louder than any confession. She didn't deny it. She didn't explain. She just looked at me like I was the problem. Then she threw the receipt at the floor, like it had personally insulted her. "You have no idea what's going on," she snapped. "You think spying on me is going to help? You've been distant for months, Colby." I almost laughed. Distant? I was the one cooking her dinner every Friday while she was getting hotel pillows fluffed. I was the one who kept hugging shadows and sleeping beside a woman who never turned back. But I didn't laugh. I just whispered, "I tried to hug you 2 nights ago, and you winced." That shut her up. She looked away, swallowed hard, and stormed out of the room. The front door slammed 15 seconds later. She was gone, and so was the plan to slip away unnoticed. I knew I had to accelerate things. So I packed. Not like a criminal running. More like someone escaping a fire that only they could see. I didn't take much. Just essentials. I left my wedding ring in the cutlery drawer, under the bottle opener, where she'd find it when trying to pop open her next bottle of relaxation. But right before leaving, I did something stupid. I checked her tablet. I wasn't even looking for more proof. I already had what I needed. But part of me still wanted to know why. What changed? Who replaced me? What did he have that I didn't? That's when I found the group chat. Not a conversation between her and Jackson, or some other guy I had imagined. No. This was between her and a woman named Brielle. And what I read flipped the entire story upside down. Brielle. So you're telling me he still hasn't figured it out? Emmy. Nope. He thinks it's someone from work. Classic Colby, always looking in the wrong direction. Brielle. Girl, if he knew who it really was. Emmy. He'd be crushed. But also, maybe it's what he needs. There were pictures, selfies, of Emmy and some other guy. Not Jackson. Not her boss. It was Trevor. My brother. My younger brother. I dropped the tablet. Trevor had been staying with us 2 months ago, just for a weekend while passing through town. Said he needed a break from city life. They barely talked when he was here. Or maybe that's what I wanted to believe. I remembered now. She left that weekend to check on a sick coworker. Trevor left early the next morning. I thought nothing of it. Thought it was just bad timing. I scrolled further, hoping it was a misunderstanding. But then I saw the final message she sent before that last green juice morning. Emmy, he's just so numb now. I think Trevor gave me what Colby couldn't. A pulse. A pulse. Like I'm a dead thing that she had to wake up from. I should have lost it right then. Should have broken something. Called her. Called him. Screamed. But instead, I just sat down on the edge of the bed again. Same spot as when I first read the hotel receipt and stared at my hands. I'd never felt smaller. Not when I failed to get into grad school. Not when my business nearly folded. Not even when my father said I wasn't man enough to keep a woman like Emmy interested. This was lower than all of it. Because it wasn't just betrayal. It wasn't just lies. It wasn't even just infidelity. It was humiliation. Deep, ugly humiliation. She didn't cheat on me with a stranger. She chose someone who carries my blood. Someone who used to share bunk beds with me and eat cereal out of measuring cups when we had no clean bowls. This wasn't random. This was personal. I didn't leave for the cabin that day. I couldn't. Not yet. Because now this wasn't just about Emmy. It was about Trevor. And the message I was going to send, without raising my voice, without slamming a single door, would start with something neither of them expected. A quiet dinner invitation. Just the three of us. I don't know if I was numb or just finally calm, but sending that dinner invite felt surgical. No emotion. No shakiness. No hesitation. Just a few simple texts, written like I was ordering takeout. To Emmy. I'd like to talk. Just dinner. Nothing dramatic. I'll cook. 7 p.m. Friday. Please be there. To Trevor. Swing by for dinner Friday night. I'll grill. Been meaning to catch up anyway. Neither of them knew the other had been invited. And I had no intention of telling them. That week, I kept the performance going. Emmy and I still passed each other like ghosts in our own house, but I no longer begged her with my eyes. I didn't try to touch her. I didn't ask where she was going. And that unnerved her. She started watching me more, offering small, weirdly timed compliments. Did you get a haircut? That shirt looks good. The same shirt she once said made me look like a sad accountant. But I didn't respond. I just nodded. Because I wasn't Colby the confused husband anymore. I was Colby the exit strategist. Friday came, and I cooked like I used to. Grilled balsamic chicken, rosemary potatoes, homemade biscuits. Not because I wanted to impress them, but because I wanted to reclaim me. The version of myself that existed before I was reduced to a side character in my own life. Trevor arrived first. Always 5 minutes early, like Dad taught us. When he stepped inside, he gave me that crooked grin he'd had since middle school. Man, it smells amazing in here, he said, slapping my shoulder. He looked relaxed, confident, like someone walking into a home where they thought they were safe. I poured him a glass of wine and offered him a seat. He was halfway into some story about a bad date with a yoga instructor when the front door opened. Emmy froze when she saw him. To her credit, she only hesitated a second. Hey, Trev, she said, walking in like this was a normal thing. She looked at me. I didn't realize he was joining us. I smiled. The more, the merrier. Dinner began with small talk. Useless things. Trevor kept the conversation going, cracking jokes, telling stories. Emmy chimed in when she had to. I let them talk. I nodded. I passed the dishes. I watched. I watched the way she glanced at him when she thought I wasn't looking. I watched how he subtly angled his body toward her, the kind of posture you don't even know you're doing when you're into someone. And most of all, I watched how neither of them acknowledged the tension in the room, the tension only I was allowed to name. After dessert, lemon squares, her favorite, untouched, I stood up and cleared the plates. Emmy offered to help. I said no. When I returned to the table, I brought something with me. My phone. I placed it face up on the table. The screen was already unlocked. One tap away from the group chat screenshots. The hotel receipt. The pictures of them together. Trevor noticed first. "You all right, man?" I sat down slowly, looked between them, and said calmly, "Do either of you want to tell me the truth? Or should I press play?" They both froze. Emmy blinked. Trevor looked down at the phone like it might explode. Emmy opened her mouth, then closed it. I didn't yell. I didn't flinch. I just let the silence eat them alive. Trevor tried first. "Colby, listen." "No," I said, my voice barely above a whisper. "You listen. You stayed in my house. Slept under my roof. And then what? Left early, so I wouldn't notice the sheets smelled like betrayal?" He turned pale. Emmy tried to shift the blame. "It was a mistake. It didn't mean—" "Don't," I interrupted. "Don't insult me like that." I turned the phone around, tapped a single video, one where they were hugging outside that hotel, and let it play with the sound off. Then I slid it across the table. "I'm not here to fight," I said. "I just wanted you both to see how quiet betrayal looks when it sits right across from you." Trevor covered his face. Emmy started to cry. I stood up, picked up my keys, and said the line I'd been waiting for days to say. "This house is paid off. The utilities are in my name. The lease on the car? Also mine. The accounts? Drained and split fairly. Check the balance. You two can have each other. But you're doing it somewhere else." And then I walked out. I didn't slam the door. Didn't pack a bag. I didn't need to. Because everything I ever needed to take with me had already been erased from that house. I drove to the cabin that night. The air was colder than expected. But for the first time in what felt like forever, I could breathe. The cabin wasn't glamorous. In fact, it was probably less comfortable than our garage back home. The walls creaked. The tap water smelled faintly like rust. There was no Wi-Fi, barely any cell service, and the mattress dipped in the middle like a crater. But for once, I wasn't trying to impress anyone. There was no one left to perform for. I didn't cry the first night. I didn't drink myself into oblivion or blast sad songs or scroll through old pictures of us. Instead, I sat on the front porch in a $14 hoodie and listened to silence. Not the empty, awkward kind, the pure kind. The kind of silence that didn't demand answers or apologies or energy I didn't have anymore. By morning, I had no new texts, no calls, no missed messages from Emmy or Trevor, just peace. Until the third day. That's when everything started to unravel, not for me, but for them. I was chopping wood when my phone finally buzzed. It was weak, one bar, and the message came through out of order. But when it loaded, I had to read it 3 times. From Emmy. "Colby, I'm sorry. Please pick up. Something happened." Then, "Trevor's gone. He left without telling me. I think he stole from my account." And finally, an older one that hadn't come through before. He said it was never about me. That I was just convenient. "I don't understand. Please call." I didn't reply. Not because I was being cold. I just didn't know what to say. How do you comfort someone who demolished your life and then complains about the debris? For hours I sat in the cabin, rereading the texts. My mind kept replaying Trevor's face that night at dinner. The way he stuttered when I confronted him. The way his eyes darted to the door like he was already planning his exit. And suddenly it clicked. He never looked guilty. He looked trapped. The next morning, I drove down to a diner 2 towns over to get a signal and check my bank apps. Everything on my end was fine. But curiosity got the better of me, and I typed Trevor's name into Facebook. His profile was gone. Deleted. I checked LinkedIn. Also gone. I searched his name with the word scam just to see what would happen. That's when I saw it. A local news article from 2 months earlier. Small claims court records. Civil dispute. Trevor had allegedly misused access to financial documents while staying with an ex-girlfriend. The case was dropped. Settled quietly. But it wasn't the first time. Another result. Different town. A gym owner filed charges for embezzlement. No conviction. But again, Trevor vanished afterward. It wasn't a one-time thing. It was a pattern. He didn't love Emmy. He used her. Just like he used me. He got close, read the room, and extracted whatever he could before slipping away. Emmy thought she was special. She thought she was chosen. But really, she was just next. And now that the lie had collapsed, she wanted me to play support system again. That night, she tried calling. Twice. Then she left a voicemail. I didn't listen to it, not at first, but I saved it. Then, as I lay in bed with wind rattling the old windows, I listened. Her voice cracked within the first 5 seconds. Colby, I don't know who else to call. I know I don't deserve it, but I feel like I'm coming apart. You were the only one who ever made me feel grounded. I was stupid. I know that. But I never expected this. He emptied my savings. My laptop's gone. I don't even know if he ever loved me. She went quiet for a few seconds, then whispered, I miss you. Please, just talk to me, even if it's to say goodbye. I wish I could say that hearing her break made me feel triumphant, but it didn't. It made me feel nothing. And that, more than anything, told me I was healing. Because 6 months ago, I would have raced home. 4 months ago, I would have answered her call at 3 a.m. 2 months ago, I would have blamed myself. But now I was free from all of it. And it terrified her. The next day, she showed up at the cabin. Uninvited. No warning. Just headlights down the dirt road and the sound of tires crunching gravel. I watched her step out in jeans and a hoodie. No makeup. Red eyes. Pale. She didn't say anything at first. She just stood there, looking like a version of herself I hadn't seen since we were 22. Back before the lies, the cold shoulders, the secrets. I didn't know where else to go, she finally said. And I answered without emotion. Maybe that's the problem. I didn't invite her inside. She stood on the porch like a lost traveler, hugging herself like the cold had just become real. I leaned against the doorframe and waited. Not out of cruelty, but because I wanted her to feel, for once, how it feels to not be welcomed. She'd had a front row seat to my pain for months. Now, the roles were reversed, and I wasn't sure she could survive even a single act. She tried to smile. You look thinner. I didn't respond. Just stepped back inside and left the door open behind me. She hesitated, then followed. The inside of the cabin didn't offer her much comfort. No scented candles, no soft jazz, no wine glasses clinking over conversation. Just dust, logs, and the scent of burned coffee from earlier that morning. I didn't come to fight, she said. I nodded once. You're not really in a position to. That stung. I saw it on her face. But she held her ground, lips pressed together, eyes glossy but defiant. She'd rehearsed something. That much was clear. A speech maybe. Or a confession. What came out was neither. I made the wrong choice. I raised an eyebrow. You made a series of choices. Don't shrink them down to one. It's insulting. That shut her up again. She looked around the room, as if the truth was hiding behind the curtains or under the chipped coffee table. I'm not asking to fix things, she said eventually. I just needed to see you. I needed to know you're still okay. That part hit harder than I expected. Because I was okay. More than okay. I was clear. I was steady. I had rebuilt my inner scaffolding, and her concern arrived too late. Like trying to put out a fire that had already burned the forest to ash and now had fresh grass growing in its place. You shouldn't be here, I said finally. This place is mine now. I know, she said softly. That's why I came. You always made things feel like home. And now I don't have one. There was silence for a while. Then, just as she reached for her coat, like she'd finally understood it was over, headlights appeared again on the dirt road. We both turned toward the window. One car. Engine off. A figure stepped out. Tall. Female. Red scarf. Long coat. Emmy squinted. Who the hell? But I already knew. It was Lana, my ex-girlfriend from years ago. The one Emmy had always been irrationally jealous of. The one she used to mock as clingy and insecure. The one I hadn't spoken to in almost a decade. Until 2 weeks ago, when she messaged me out of the blue after seeing my name mentioned in a Reddit thread about Trevor's scams. Turns out she had her own story. And a folder of evidence. Lana didn't knock. She walked right in like she'd been there 1,000 times. She froze when she saw Emmy, then gave her a slow, deliberate nod. Not polite, not warm. The kind of nod you give someone you plan to demolish legally. Emmy blinked, clearly thrown off. What is this? I looked between them and felt a shift in the air, like a storm forming quietly, right over our heads. Lana set down a flash drive on the table. There's more, she said to me. Bank transfers, emails, screenshots. Your brother's been doing this in 3 states. Emmy's name shows up more than once. I thought you should know. Emmy went pale. What are you talking about? Lana turned to her. You helped him set up a shell account, didn't you? Under your maiden name? You might want to check whose name is listed as co-authorized. Emmy stepped back. No, I didn't know. He just asked for help with a business setup. You signed the documents, Lana snapped. Whether you knew or not, You're liable. I watched it all unfold like I wasn't even there. Like this wasn't my story anymore. Just a front row seat to someone else's unraveling. Emmy's knees nearly buckled. Colby. I didn't. But I held up a hand. Calm. Cold. You came here for clarity, I said. Here it is. Trevor didn't just break us. He used both of us. And now you have to deal with the consequences. Not me. Lana picked up the flash drive, turned to me, and asked, You ready to end this the right way? I nodded. Let's go. As we walked toward the door, Emmy called after me. Colby, please don't let her take this from me too. I know I made mistakes, but you don't have to hate me. I stopped. Not for long. Just a second. Then I said without turning around, I don't hate you. I just finally believe you. We didn't speak on the drive. Lana stared out the window like a soldier preparing for court instead of combat, while I kept my hands locked on the steering wheel like they might betray me too. The USB drive sat in the cup holder between us like a time bomb. Inside it, all the texts, banking records, IP logins, wire transfers, and photos Lana had been compiling over the last 5 months, long before she ever reached out to me. Trevor wasn't just some moody little brother who made bad choices. He was a pattern, a machine. He had stolen over $60,000 from multiple women, manipulated two into co-signing business documents, and vanished each time like he'd learned how to erase himself better with every round. And Emmy? Whether she realized it or not, her signature was on one of those setups. That was all it took. Our first stop was a lawyer's office in a small, brick building with crooked blinds and faded parking lines. Lana had already retained him. He didn't ask me many questions, just nodded, plugged in the drive, and whistled low as he skimmed through files. This is enough to open a formal complaint, he said. Could lead to charges. Could lead to subpoenas. Possibly restitution. I just nodded. Lana leaned back in her chair like she was finally exhaling after holding her breath for years. Do you want to be named as a victim in the claim? The lawyer asked me. I didn't answer right away, because that word, victim, felt wrong. Not inaccurate, just wrong. Trevor stole money. He stole trust. But Emmy? She gave herself to him willingly. Lied to me willingly. Shut me out willingly. I wasn't just someone scammed. I was someone discarded. And now she wanted rescue. Again. No, not this time. I gave the lawyer a list of what Trevor had taken from me. Emotionally, not financially. I know that sounds weak, but it wasn't about cash. It was about waking up. When we left the office, Lana didn't ask where we were going. She just followed. Back to the cabin. Back to the porch where the whole mess had detonated. Except this time, Emmy was no longer there. She had left behind a single manila envelope on the porch step. No note. No signature. Just sealed. Inside was her wedding ring. And a copy of the transfer authorization for the business account Trevor had created, the one now under investigation. It had her name clearly listed as co-authorized. Below that, scratched out with red pen, was a single phrase written in shaky, familiar handwriting. He told me it was for us. That's the last sentence I ever received from her. 3 days later, Emmy was served papers. Not criminal, not yet, but civil. Formal notice of her inclusion in a pending case. Lana and the other women were moving forward together. I chose not to join as a plaintiff. Why? Because I had already won in the way that mattered to me. I had my name, my spine, and finally my freedom. But something unexpected happened in the days that followed. Lana didn't leave. She stayed at the cabin. First as a guest, then as a presence. She made coffee without asking. She chopped wood without complaint. She fixed the screen door that had been loose since 2014. We didn't flirt. We didn't reminisce. We just existed in the same space without hurting each other. And that felt new. One night, I caught her staring at the stars, barefoot, wrapped in a borrowed blanket, and asked her if she missed him. Not Trevor specifically, but the idea of him. The way con men get into your soul before you even realize they've made themselves at home. She nodded. I miss what I thought it was. Not what it really was. I understood that sentence more than anything else she'd said. The next morning, I got a call from a blocked number. I almost didn't pick up, but I did. It was Trevor. His voice was tired. Hello. Maybe even drunk. You're really doing this, huh? He asked. Turning everyone against me? I didn't yell. I didn't threaten. I just asked him one question. Why her? There was a long pause. Then he sighed. Because she was the one who kept defending you. Every time we talked growing up, it was always, Colby this, Colby that. I wanted to prove something. I could hear traffic behind him, or maybe it was wind. He was already on the run again, just like always. You didn't prove anything, I said quietly, except that you were always watching me. Not because you hated me, but because you wanted to be me. He hung up, and that was that. I never heard from him again. Emmy sent one final email. Short, cold. Thank you for not destroying me completely. I won't contact you again. And she didn't. But by then, I no longer needed closure. I had something better. Stillness. And a second chance at something I hadn't even dared to imagine. Spring crept in slowly that year. At first, it was just the sound of the ice cracking under the trees, the creek behind the cabin finally thawing. Then came the birds, quiet at first, almost uncertain. And then the green returned, soft and slow, like the forest had waited patiently for me to stop grieving before it woke up. I hadn't planned to stay at the cabin this long. When I first arrived, it was supposed to be a reset, a few days to clear my head. Then maybe I'd return to the city, deal with the divorce paperwork, sell the house, all the real-world stuff. But I never left. I realized, somewhere between chopping firewood and watching the lake steam in the morning sun, that the real world I thought I was supposed to get back to was never mine to begin with. It was something I'd been surviving inside, quietly, for years. And here, I was finally living. Emmy kept her word. No texts, no calls, no surprise visits. Her name appeared once more, in a legal update regarding the civil case. But otherwise, she vanished from my life as cleanly as I had from hers. I never celebrated her downfall. I didn't gloat. I didn't stalk her social media to see if she was suffering. That part of me, the one that needed to know she regretted everything, slowly died out. And when it did, I felt lighter than I had in years. As for Trevor, he was a ghost again. Lana and the other victims were pressing forward, and there were whispers of possible charges out of Michigan, but I stopped tracking it. That wasn't my war anymore. Lana and I stayed in touch. She didn't stay at the cabin forever. She had her own life, a new job in Portland, a dog named Waffles, and a stubborn streak that hadn't dulled a bit. But we talked regularly, shared playlists, book recommendations. She even mailed me a pair of slippers with a note that said, "Because you're definitely someone who wears slippers now." She was right. Funny how healing looks different for everyone. For me, it was peace. For her, it was fire. But both of us stopped running. And that was enough. One morning, I found myself making 2 cups of coffee by habit. I stood there in the kitchen, pouring them like I used to back when I thought love was routine and silence was normal. But this time, I didn't feel the ache. I smiled. Because the second cup wasn't for someone who'd left me. It was for someone who might still arrive. Later that day, I packed a small bag and drove down into town. I bought fresh fruit, local honey, and, for the first time in years, a new shirt. Not because I needed to impress anyone, but because I finally wanted to look like the man I'd become. I don't know what the future holds. I don't know if I'll fall in love again. I don't know if Lana and I will ever be more than 2 people who survived something ugly and walked away whole. But I know this. I am not the man who stood frozen in the kitchen while his wife pulled away from a hug. I am not the man who begged for scraps of affection. I am not the brother who confused loyalty with silence. I am Colby, and I came back to life. Not because someone saved me, but because I finally stopped waiting to be chosen and started choosing myself.